Hi, everyone. This is Steph, the Educator, on the Essential Pedagogy Podcast. And I just want to thank you guys for listening or watching. I thank my people who keep coming back for more and more and more. And it's just exciting to come back to you and talk to you about what's going on in education, at least from our perspective here in America, and particularly Texas. Um, my hope is that as a result of you listening to this podcast, that people on the side of education and outside of education grow in compassion for one another by getting an inside view of the complex structure of the American education system in Texas. Because I know every American education system is not the same. So, without further ado, I want to talk to you guys about the topics that I have prepared. Now, before I get deep into it, I'll just tell you the topic is about feedbacks, reminders, and nonverbal lessons. What spurred this topic is a couple of weeks back, I had a student that got frustrated with me, and education can be very frustrating. Anytime anyone has a lesson to learn or is learning in the process of learning a lesson, it can be very, very frustrating. Uh, it's not fun. Like, I don't know if you can remember a time where you learned a hard lesson, like you bumped your head. Yeah, not necessarily literally, but figuratively, you bumped your head and you learned your lesson. It was not comfortable. In fact, in order for you to change your behavior, it probably was really uncomfortable and memorable. So I had a student, a little girl, and honey, let me just tell you, these children are not little. Okay. The little girl she's got to be 5'11", got to be 5'11", and nearly 6 feet tall. And she is a seventh grader. So I give the students uh, notes to write down basic information about a topic. And then I give them opportunity to use the information. And so some of it is really hands-on. Other times it is going through some exercises of answering questions, interpreting what the question is asking them, and finding what's appropriate by applying what they know about the basic topic. Anyhow, so children come up to me all the time when they say they understand the assignment, they understand what to do, they understand how to complete the assignment, but then sometimes they don't know the details in completing the assignment. Say, for instance, they know that they're supposed to answer these questions, but they haven't read through all the questions to understand what is being asked of them. So then once I go over the spiel of what we're doing, how to do it, and they confirm that they understand, and they have an opportunity to kind of explain to their neighbor like what is going on and what they're going to do, they occasionally come up with some challenges. And a lot of times the challenges stem from their vocabulary being limited. Okay. So the little girl asked me, she didn't understand. And her articulation about what she didn't understand wasn't great. So she said, I just don't get it. I don't understand this. And I said, well, what don't you understand? It's a question. What don't you understand? So I said, read the question to me. So she read the question, and I said, oh, do you know what this word is? Do you know what this means? And she says, no. And I said, well, This was one of your vocabulary words we took at the very beginning of this unit. You might want to go to your notebook and find it. She got mad and had some choice words for me about not being helpful at all and going to her desk, upset, proceeds to talk to everybody about who will listen about how I'm not helpful. And then she goes to her Chromebook to Google the word that I know because I graded what was in her notebook, the vocabulary that she had. And it was pure laziness. Pure laziness. I guess it's just laziness because she did not feel like looking in her notebook for the answer. And so I walked over to her learning station and I said, hey, I want you to close your Chromebook and I want you to look in your notebook for your answer that you wrote down because you know what this word is. After you look it up in your notebook, you're going to see, oh. Anyhow, she didn't take the feedback well. She snarkled a little bit. She got an attitude and almost cried when I called her. I called her out on it. I said, you're not being a good student right now. You're not acting like you want to learn because you have the information right there in front of you and you refuse to look for it because you are lazy right now. And I told her that. She almost got in tears, but it was the truth. I'm going to circle back to that moment because she got upset, and I'm going to tell you how I'm going to tell you more about that situation later. Another situation recently happened to me at the nail shop, and I was getting a pedicure, and I was giving the young man who was doing my pedicure feedback. Okay. I don't like the razor. I don't do razors. I don't do the little cheese grater thing on my feet. I just never have liked that. And so when he started to do the cheese grater without my permission or asking me what I prefer, I said, no, don't do that. The pumice is fine for me. You know, put a little callus remover on it and do the pumice for me. And you just get some elbow grease, but don't cut my skin, right? Um, so he was like, okay, he did that, took the feedback. He never gave me a pedicure before. So I was expecting him to look at me and say, hey, is this okay? And he did ask me if I wanted my nails to be clipped, yada, 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 yada. But there were details like I don't like a sharp edge. I need for it to be rounded so that it doesn't snag my sheets or scratch my legs in the middle of the night or what have you. So it was just feedback, and he got progressively upset when I kept giving him feedback and specifics about my feet. Mine. I was paying for the pedicure. And I wasn't being naughty. I wasn't being nasty to him. I wasn't, treating him subservient. I was like, hey, I don't like that. Hey, I paid for hot towel. I need for it to be hot. It's not quite hot. I really like it hot. Can you get some more towels? Anyway, he got progressively upset, started talking in his preferred language to the person next to him after I asked him to get another set of hot towels. And I thought it was rude because I knew he was complaining about me. Now, I am not the kind of person that assumes that someone who is talking to another person in their language, that they're talking about me. I don't assume that. But when you go stomp away to go get the hot towels and then come back and have something to say to, oh girl, I know you had something to say about this about me and about how I was being picky or what have you. I don't care. Don't. Anyhow, that's, I know, very rude. Anyhow, um this is what made me be like, okay, I need to talk about feedback, because when I talked to the manager, owner, whoever it was that was in charge, I said, hey, I did not appreciate this. I wish the person would have done this. I just wanted to give you feedback because I don't feel like the person was paying enough attention, because when I wash dishes, I'm looking at the dishes that I'm washing and I'm putting them where they belong or what have you. So when someone is doing my feet, I don't want you looking all around the room and paying attention to the television and you rubbing my feet and you're not looking at my feet and paying attention to what I'm telling you to do. Like, anyhow, so this is what brought me to talking about feedback. Okay. So, definition: feedback. And this is, I'm going to talk about academic feedback. Academic feedback is the practice of giving students information about their performance um, against a known standard. So you got to know a standard in order to give somebody feedback, or have a standard in order to give somebody useful feedback. Now, the person giving the feedback need to be mindful about how they're giving feedback. Okay. I know all about this because I do this all day, every day. Okay. I try to approach people in a manner of respect and honor and politeness. Okay. Graciousness. Okay. So the way in which you give feedback matters. Okay. So I do this often, but there are some things, like I said, in order to be successful at feedback, the overall picture, and this is the reason why educators are called, the overall picture of giving feedback that is receivable, okay, and hard feedback sometimes, because if students were where they are supposed to be, then they wouldn't be with you as a teacher, right? So they're not always where they're supposed to be and in their educational journey. So what I do intentionally is create an environment to where I'm constantly reinforcing the fact that I see them as a person, that I know them, and that I hear them and how they want to be treated, how they want to be understood, and also about my value system, about safety, about respect and honor of other people, right? And what my value system is with that. Now, that's kind of hard. You don't go through, oh, these are my value systems and here's the definition of value systems every day. So that leads me to the nonverbal lessons, right? So I was like, what is all this? What is all this? How do we get to where we need to be when it comes to feedback and talking to students and trying to accomplish a goal? Every day I walk in the door, I want my students to grow in knowledge. I want them to grow academically, and I want them to have measurable growth. So I want them to know that I value them writing down how they're doing and writing down a goal of what they want to do in the future. Okay. I also have nonverbal lessons of, you mean something to me, because I stand at the door and I greet my students every day, no matter what. They can't walk by me and not look at me and walk in the door. First of all, I kind of feel like that's rude. Second of all, especially if I'm at the door greeting everybody. Second of all, I really want to know how they're doing and how their morning or day or evening is going. So when a student walks by me, head down, not speak, hey, come back here. How you doing? Oh, I'm doing fine, Miss Powell. Okay, well, great. Come on in. Welcome to class. Okay. Um, when I in my classroom in middle school, they're supposed to have identification because there can be drama and altercations and things like that. So we want to make sure that the students that are with us are our students. Okay, so one of my value systems is having some kind of identification on a student as they walk through my door. It's a threshold thing. So students know that I value this. Students know that I know their name. Students know that the reason why I'm very serious about students having identification. At the Uvalde mass shooting, parents were not able to identify their children because of the severity of the shooting. So if you can't identify a person's face and everybody's wearing jeans, and you don't remember what color your children's shorts were or what have you, it's kind of tough to identify them. So I try to make sure that my students, when they're around me, they have identification. I don't want it to be a situation where something is to happen and someone can't identify them. So that was a triggering and traumatizing thing for me. I was like, oh my gosh, what can I do to help somebody in a process if it's something that difficult? Don't want it to be, not speaking it, nothing like that. I'm just saying, in America, it's a reality. So anyhow, they know that this is a threshold for me, that this is something important to me. And I speak to them and I find out a little bit about their day and weekend. You have a good weekend? Oh, you went to Arkansas? Did you like Arkansas? These kinds of things happen. So it builds a rapport with the student so that they know that I'm not criticizing them to tear them down, but I'm giving them feedback so they can be built up. So when you help a student, you have to help them interpret and understand and accept your feedback. Part of that is building rapport with your student, okay? And that help, if you have a gifted teacher, that happens naturally, okay? It is a direct teach for some, and we do teach people how to do that effectively, but it is a natural thing for called and gifted students. Okay, called and gifted teachers. Okay, so in order to help a student to interpret and understand and accept your feedback, you have to also teach them how to ask questions by modeling it. You have to teach them that you have to, that the goal is for them to get better and to always look for some kind of improvement, but also celebrate wins, because as the school year goes on, it is my job to, every time I see a student's piece of work, to know where they started at the beginning of the year and recognize their growth and share and remind them of that growth every now and then. Because you want a student to be encouraged and understand that, hey, the goal is to grow. Now, I may not capitalize all my sentences. Capitalize the first letter of the word in the front of my sentence all the time. But if I did it on one sentence out of 3 and I never used to do it, then it's, a good thing for you to point that out, even though the feedback is, hey guys, when we do our summaries, and you need to continue to try to make capital letters at the front of the sentence. And then at the same time saying, but I see you did it on one, so let's get the other two next time. You think you could do that? And make it lighthearted. That's not something that I take off because I'm a science teacher. I don't really take off for that kind of thing. But I do give them feedback because they still need to practice. They still need to practice the way they write in So with our nonverbal lessons, everything is a lesson. The way I dress, the way I greet students at the door, how I share my value systems and how I honor them, and how I give them, we're supposed to give them life feedback for that will stick with them for the rest of their life. Even if people say, oh, that's not your job, you're not supposed to teach my children life lessons of integrity and responsibility. But I beg to differ. I mean, responsibility and bringing your homework or bringing in your notebook, you're responsible for that. You are a partner in your own learning, right? And so some feedback I've given to a student who's on the positive side is I have conversations. This little boy, he's come to school tardy 27 times. Okay. Today was 28. I was going to say his name, Lord Jesus. I'm not going to say his name. Anyhow, I told him, I said, look, I wish I had $200 every time you were tardy. Now, it's not his fault that he's tardy all the time because, look, he is a 7th grader. Somebody's taking him to school or making sure that he's getting up and going to school. In fact, I know someone's taking him to school because I've asked him before the 27th, 28th time. Yes, girl, that's a lot. It's a lot of times to be tardy. So I told him, I said, I was going to say his name again. Lord Jesus, don't. Tommy. I'm going to just make up a name. Tommy. I said, Tommy, it is first period. Do you know what time first period starts? And he says, yes. I said, it starts at 8:10. I know, Miss Powell. But it's my sister's fault. One day it's his sister's fault. The next day it's his dad's fault. And I said, really, it's your dad's fault. It don't matter that your sister's not getting up. Y'all can leave her. And she could walk. It doesn't matter. I said, it's your daddy's fault. You understand? It's your daddy's fault. And I want to talk to your daddy about what he's teaching you about tardiness. So when he takes you to school tardy, because it really ain't your fault, your kid. When he takes you to school tardy, he's saying that he does not value getting to a place on time. And I said, and in my opinion, when you get a job, I hope you understand that you'll get fired if you were tardy 27 times. He was like, I know, Miss Powell. I know, Miss Powell. It's his fault. I said, okay. I said, I think I'm going to have a serious conversation with your dad. Now, I do have very crucial conversations with parents. And I can spin some things to be like, hey, no, you work hard. You probably work odd hours. You work at night. It's hard for you to get up. Okay, you need to set an alarm clock and you need to bite the dust for our children. Okay. And then I tell them a personal story about how I did the same thing and how it was so hard and everything. And I like to see Tommy get to school on time. And a lot of times it works. Sometimes it doesn't. There's always going to be people who just don't have get right in them. But neither here nor there. These are some things that we teach unconsciously, nonverbal lessons. The way I dress. I tend to dress on the more formal side. as far as a teacher is concerned. I'm a professional, so I rarely wear jeans. I wear nice skirt, blouse. I wore this. Oh, you can't really tell what I had on: a pleated skirt, some boots, and nice long sleeve. Yeah, little turtleneck today, mock neck shirt. And I dress a little elevated because I'm only 4'8". Okay. I look like I could be a 6th or 7th grader. And so, and I wear my makeup so that when a child approach me, they won't accidentally pop off. That means they're going to have to purposely understand they're talking to an adult and pop off, but they're not going to accidentally believe and approach me so casually because I'm not dressed that way. So I'm dressed as an adult. You address me. Okay. So when I give feedback, sometimes the child or the person is asking me to give them the answers to what they want. And it's not my job to give an answers. It's my job to create a thinker. So then I will ask clarifying questions. I will ask scaffolding questions. Questions is like, do you know this? Do you know the meaning of this word? Okay, after you know the meaning of this word, how can we apply that to what you already know? Do you know this thing and how it relates to this? So these are the things that we do during feedback in order to get the children to evoke thinking, have them become problem solvers. It's very frustrating when a student, we work in our notebooks every single day. This is my little notebook for this podcast, but I have notebooks for them every single day. And so it's very frustrating to me when they get to their last page in their notebook and they say, Miss Powell, I'm on my last page. And I said, really? And they said, I'm not going to have anything tomorrow. I said, really? And they said, I don't have any more paper. I said, what do you think you ought to do about that? I don't know. What I want to see more of is where a student is becoming a problem solver for their own issues. That's the reason why I don't loan pencils. That's the reason why I make them keep their own notebooks. They don't store them in my classroom for their convenience, so they don't have to carry them in the hallway. One of the things that I feel like creates chaos in the hallway of schools is that, the lawless people, because we talked about the lawless people are the students. They don't have any consequences, but they have to carry around their things. And that means that you need to be responsible for your things. You don't have time to hit nobody and run, because guess what? You got all your little stuff with you. And if you carry on a certain kind of way, you're going to drop all your stuff on the ground. So it keeps a little bit of decorum in the hallway. Keep your stuff. We're not going to just have you walk around and you have nothing in your hand, because every teacher is letting you keep your personal items in their classroom. No, you keep up with your things. It's a little personal responsibility thing. But I think overall, we all need to get better at receiving feedback. Look, most of the times, nobody has time to try to get you by giving you some useful feedback. Now, there's a difference between destructive criticism and constructive criticism and feedback. Now, destructive criticism actually is something that wants to cause you harm, right? Like, and I've had that in my life. I've had people say, well, why can't you do this? Or why can't you do? And I don't understand. And I've noticed this about you and I've noticed that about you. Instead of saying, Stephanie, I value the fact that you are an extrovert. But I'm concerned that if you share too much with people, that instead of saying, I think you talk about your business too much. And, it bothers me. Oh, really? Bothers you? Oh. And then my response is not that great. So we all need to get better about feedback and know that when you feel something on the inside, when someone's giving you feedback or telling you about yourself, that if you feel a little tug of being perturbed or bothered, I want you to start thinking about, what is it in me that is feeling a certain way because of what this person said. So what is this triggering in me? What is this, why, start breaking down, why am I feeling this way? You might feel this way because you feel self-conscious about something. You know that you're lacking in a certain area and you need to get better. You kind of resent someone mentioning it or pointing it out to you. But guys, feedback is very useful. It's very, very useful. And we need to just get better at feedback because it helps us in our craft. And that's where I'm trying to get. I'm trying to get at that. It's helping students get better at what they're supposed to do, which is growing academically, but also feedback in a professional realm helps us all to get better at our crafts. Whatever we decide to do, whether it is, doing pedicures, okay, or whether it's doing any kind of service in any kind of professional realm, it's very valuable. Very valuable. And I think we need to just get better at receiving feedback and then doing something about it, and not necessarily making it someone else's fault or jumping to conclusions about it. So, okay, here we go, full circle. The little girl got visibly upset. She was upset. The whole class was quiet. Okay, quiet. And then I told some colleagues of mine and they were like, oh man, that sounded like, oh, that was tough. And I was like, I'm a tough teacher. I'm a tough cookie. And I didn't apologize because all I was doing was giving her feedback and direction on how to get better. But I tell you, that same student, the young lady who got upset, and I closed her Chromebook and I said, you will look in your notebook for this information. She came to me today and she said, Ms. Powell, I promise you, I turned this thing in, I don't know what happened to it, yada, yada. And I was like, let me help. Let's problem solve. Let's look. I valued her enough to know that she was telling me the truth and that she wants to improve, to get down to solving her problem. And she came to me humbly. We have a level of respect, and she can learn from me because she knows I'm not trying to hurt her, but I'm trying to make her better. And so whenever a child comes home frustrated, you have to remember that learning is not always comfortable. It's very uncomfortable and sometimes downright painful. But that doesn't mean that they're going to hurt for the long run. Okay? That this is a prick that is going to help them grow. And so you have to teach your children and other people around you that sometimes lessons are hard and we just have to persevere and keep trying. And that people are not always here to hurt you on purpose. Okay. So it's good for you to ask questions, probing questions, so you can understand your student and not jump into conclusions. Okay. Because feedback is part of our job in order for the learning process to occur. So that's my show, guys. I am so happy that you guys allow me to share with you some things that topics that we deal with in education. And hopefully it gives you a bird's eye view about just how much we do in our educational system in America. Thank you guys for listening or watching, and I'll see you next time.